Okay, let's do this before I fall asleep. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. We are here with Boldores and Boomsticks. Yes, my head still hurts like crazy, and one of my eyes is red a bit, but that's fine. That's fine. As long as I don't vomit on the microphone, that's fine. But yeah, I just came home from work an hour ago. I had a long pass. It's a little bit better now, but yeah, I blame the weather. The weather can decide what it's gonna be. So we are only gonna do one chapter. Hopefully I won't have problems with it. I still keep up the chance that I might stop in midway. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But I'm here, and let's get ready for the old age and treachery. The old age. There are some professors here who can be called old-aged, or Salem. Or Rospin, for that matter. Are we ready to start? I have absolutely no idea what kind of music we want, so I'm just gonna put a random this one, why not? And let's start. Everything is visible. You can hear me. You can hear the music. It's not loud, but you can hear it. So let's start. Chapter 17. So, Casey is showing Ruby how to use the reader thingy. Young explained, making expensive gestures to supplement her story, and putting a slice of pizza at risk. And I figure, hey, why not? Riley sat leaning forward, elbows propped on his knees, and a nearly interested look in his eyes. His own half-eaten slice of pizza sat forgotten on the coffee table before him. So, you use the TM reader on yourself? Yup, Yang said cheerfully. Yeah, that happened. Before taking another bite of cheesy deliciousness. And done, I could breathe fire. She muffled through her mouth, adding a disapproving sweat to the shoulder from Weiss. After the food had arrived, with the poor little boy almost invisible behind the tall stack of pizza boxes, the group had allocated themselves to the cozy living room they had seen on their way to the lab. Between 9 new ones, actually 8 and the bonus, but who's counting? And a scattering of Pokemon of various sizes, a few extra chairs needed to be borrowed from nearby rooms, to fit everyone. Blake rolled her eyes as she finished chewing, and reflecting that the best part of liking anchovies. Why did I want to say anchovies? It's anchovies. On your pizza is not needing to share. Yeah, there are a lot of people who are not liking anchovies. What is she glossing over is the agonizing shriek and composure that went with it. Remarkable, Professor Oak murmured, considering the implications as he reached for his coffee mug. As should I. It's almost empty. He suddenly flinched and hastily puppeted. Not the pain and potential has result, of course. I meant I've never heard of someone actually getting a result. Any result from applying a TM to a human. It's unprecedented. Blake had a theory about it that she wanted to ask Riley about, Ruby offered. Oh, it's Ruby. Calling it a theory is probably being generous, Blake hedged. I am not prepared. I am almost done with it. But it makes as much sense as anything else I have thought of. She summarized what she had suggested around the campfire that morning, and Riley was left slowly nodding as he considered it. That does seem like a reasonable explanation, he said. If that's correct, then would theoretically be able to use the TM as well. But considering the symptoms you described, I'm less than eager to try it out. Vimp. Yang snickered. Masochist? Why scoffed in return, glaring at the blonde teammate. What? Oh, I forgot that whisper is here. Looking up for the plate of bite-sized pizza bits her big sister had cut up for her. Never you mind, Weiss answered hurriedly. She ignored the faint snickering from some of her more immature dining companions, all of them, as she attempted to change the subject. Do you like the pizza? Whisper stared up at her for a moment, then climbed to her feet, stood on Weiss's knee, placed her tiny hands on the girl's temples, and then stared into her eyes intently. Pizza is the best thing ever! Why do I see Pinky at Weiss? And at Whisper? I thought Whisper was Fluttershy, but it's now it's now Pinkie Pie. Nonplussed, Weiss could only smile lightly as she locked eyes with her Pokemon. Well, that's good. I'm glad you like it. Whisper didn't break eye contact. Ever! She insisted, before dropping back down to resume eating. Well, she's not wrong. Yang sighed happily, reaching for another slice of the pie she was sharing with Torchic, and snatching her hand back like she had been burnt as a piece of the pizza lifted on its own before she could touch it. Ghastly simmered into view. The purloined, how do you say this word? Purloined, right? Purloined pizza, resting on its oversized tongue. And Yang's friends laughed as she pressed herself deeper into the cushions in a subconscious attempt to get some distance. Ghastly drew his stolen prize in, eating the slice in one bite with a small grin. Then his purplish-black mask turned in an anthracis shade of red, and the ghost's eyes started watering. Yang managed to laugh herself as she saw Ghastly's reaction. Ha! What's the matter? Can't take the heat? It's only habanero and chili powder. That's kid stuff. Gary rolled his eyes as she finished chewing. Why am I... Wait, what was Gary's voice? It's the... Why am I not surprised the girl who lights herself on the fire likes ridiculously spicy food? Hey, maybe he would like it better if I ordered ghost peppers, After obligatory groans, Casey showed Torchic a curious look as he sat on the table pecking at his own cut pizza bit. I'm kinda surprised Torchic's okay with the pizza topped with pain. Being a fire type doesn't actually give resistance to spiciness. After all, I know somebody with a Flareon that can sense spicy food, because it's the only time he knows what burning feels like. Torchic shrugged before resuming his meal, but Professor Oak straightened up, the gleam of education in his eyes. Actually, that's a fascinating bit of trivia, birds. Whether Pokemon are mundane, are affected by capsaicin, the component peppers naturally produce. Because of this, most creatures leave pepper plants alone, while the seeds get spread far and wide by birds. And of course... At first I didn't realize Purloined. Yep. You know why I found out how to recognize it? It's because of the Pokemon Purloin. Yeah, I know what it means, I just never heard it said aloud. I think. As a normal word, I had never heard it, but as a Pokemon, I have. And of course, humans are the only creatures dumb enough to look at that, announce challenge accepted, and intentionally play even more painful versions to eat. Gary snarked. Yeah, that's true. I don't know about that, Blake mused, as she held up a glass of milk for Ghastly, much to the ghost's gratitude. I I've known some foreigners who grew peppers back home. Oh wait, you are bringing foreigners into the scene. And they were almost trying to develop hotter and hotter strains too. I believe really rarely heard of the water either. That's why I didn't recognize it at first. Not just you. Thank you. I recognized the word, I just didn't know how to pronounce it at first. Riley gave her a curious look. I recall you mentioning foreigners back in Golden Valley as well. What are they? Pull off the bow? Tim Rubio stopped and shot a surprised look. They shifted a bit in place, trying to figure out who should start. Finally, Vice took the lead. Well, humans are not the only sapient species of remnant. The faunus are functionally identical to humans, except for one difference. Every faunus has a single physical trait from reminiscent of an animal. Animal. Most of them have a tail or a second set of ears, top of their head. Yeah, that's strange that they have two sets of ears. But it's not just a single physical trait. It can be multiple. I guess that answers the question of if there are any here, Yang says. Which is kind of weird, really. There is humans on both sides, but not faunus. They are still hiding that Blake is a faunus. I'm still stuck on a second set of ears things, Takeshy admitted. As in, there's a set of human ears where they should be, and a set of ears on the head. Yep! RWBY chirped. One girl in the ear above us, one girl in the ear above ours at Bacon has those really cute bunny ears. We know who we are talking about. Then there's the friend of ours from another school, Son. He's got a monkey tail, and he's even using it to hang off our stuff. Oh, amazing! Oak murmured, considering the implications. Well, this is just redoubles my desire to learn more about your world. Another species, similar but distinct from humans? I would love the chance to meet one, get their perspective, and ask them, are you a boy or a girl? Because at that point, it would be a valid question. Unlike in the game. The woman said nothing in response to that, as three members very carefully did not look at the force. There was an uncomfortable pause. Slowly, hesitantly, Blake spoke up. That could be arranged. Her teammates shot a surprised look. Blake? RWBY asked, startled by her friend's decision. We are amongst friends here, Blake said, more to herself than to anyone else. No preconceptions, no history, no real history to hide. Yeah, that's a really thing. Gender is typically very hard to tell apart from most Pokemon. That's true. But Oak is asking it from a human. In the game. You know how this game starts, right? Are you a boy or a girl? Now tell me your name. But yeah, the only reason Blake is hiding her identity in the real world, in Remnant, is because of the history of the faunus. They were basically slaves back then, until they have been said, okay, you can have some rights. You are mostly human, after all. But in here? Nah. She reached up to her hair ribbon, and after a second's hesitation, untied it. For a long, silent moment, the assembled trainers and the Pokemon started blankly at the twitching black cat-ears atop Blake's head. Huh? Gray eventually managed. Okay, I'm sorry if you get this a lot. Casey said with a grin, but those are adorable. I know, right? RWBY agreed. I can imagine a few players being forced into labels of are you a boy or a girl right at the start when they would rather pick some gender fluid or something neutral option, resetting the above. They see it differently. It's not The Sims where you can be yourself. It is just, okay, do you wanna have a boy character or girl character? This is a cartridge. We can't make more of this. You can well like this or not. There are multiple games where you can't even choose. Yeah, there were a lot of limitations. I don't know what will happen in the next Pokemon where it is coming out. Where they are gonna implement it or not. Because the Switch might be able to at least do that. But yeah, when you are playing a game, most may accept that they are playing a role, not themselves. I mean, aren't we all playing a role in society? I am the Joker, making fun of myself. You are the viewer. Just kidding. Would be far more interesting to pick a Pokemon to be the trainer. Well, that is basically the... What is it called? The dungeons? There are multiple Pokemon games where you are with the Pokemon. Mystery Dungeons, that's it. That's the title. The Mystery Dungeon series. All of them, you are with the Pokemon. You are the Pokemon. And you have a team of Pokemons with you. It's been a while since I've played any of those. I know, right? RWBY agreed. Guess they seem to be of the like mind, as he hovered around Blake's head, peering at the appendages as they instantly swiveled to follow him. Why were you hiding them? Tracy asked. I mean, if you didn't know for sure that they aren't followers here. He trailed off as he saw the awkward looks return to RWBY's faces. It's a long story, Blake said, eyes lowered. Sounds interesting, never heard of that game. Well, it's another one, obviously. It's mostly dungeon crawling. It's a different type of game than the Pokemon series. But it's still in the series. The short version is that Raymond got more than its fair share of dumbasses who think that a different means not good enough, Yang growled. Oh. Blake sighed, avoiding eye contact with anyone, especially Vice. I guess it would be the best to lay it all out. It was only a few years ago that Faunus lobbyists were able to secure laws establishing equal rights. There is still a lot of tension. The fact that the laws exist doesn't guarantee that they will probably be enforced. Yet the White Fang is still around at this point. At least it should be, because I don't know how the timeline works in this fan art, in this fanfiction. Because we are already establishing that Tyrion is in this world right now, and Salem sent him here. So I don't exactly know where we are at the timeline, but we know that the school still stands. Well, sank back into her seat, eyes closed. And it really doesn't help that there are large corporations that use loopholes and propaganda to maintain the status quo. My family is being one of the worst offenders. Which is why she's going to fix that once she's in charge, RWBY announced firmly, in tones that made clear that she had accepted no back thought. I smiled weakly, but I didn't reach her eyes. Yeah, once I'm in charge. And it's kinda hard to talk about the stuff without spoilers about RWBY while you don't know where you are at the timeline, right? Because Tyrion is a character which was introduced in season 5, I guess? There's another uncomfortable silence. That in that matter of fact, I need to continue, at least finish the last chapter of RWBY. I will work on that as well, at one point. I just don't have the time and the energy. Gash is in place, seeking a cunning way to shift the conversation away from such depressing topics. So, speaking of changing the subject, brilliant though. How's about the City's Stammies? I say they are going to take the penalty this year. Casey immediately whipped around, eyes alight with indignant rage. What? Those charms? No way! Electrobuzzer, what's that? He represents the force volume. Oh, okay. Still doesn't make sense where we are at the, at the thing. I'm gonna assume we are at the force volume, so... or just before the force volume. But then, at the beginning doesn't make sense. Sure, why not? All the Pokemon on her path rocked in place as an agreement. Yeah, Casey's right, Yang said, latching onto the chance to cheer up the party. By the way, what's what are we arguing about? The rest of the meal passed in a pleasant haze of baseball talk and too much pizza. I mean... Question! Do Team RWBY even know what baseball is? I'm not sure there are any kind of games like that in Remnant. They don't have, let's just say, the defense to be on any kind of team game against each other. I just realized, what would that be? You know that the Grimm are actually going for the negative emotions. Just look at what happens in a football game or any kind of team game. There is at least one part of the arena that's gonna be angry. Or sad. That's a no-no. I mean, it happened as well later on. In just a team tournament. So yeah, I don't think there are any kind of sports other than just brawling. Or just huntsmen fighting each other. Like tournaments like that. At least I have never seen any mention of that. It would be nice to see. Fascinating. Professor Oak Muhammad, I firmly mounted on the lens of a microscope. And you call this burnt dust? That's one of the more common names. Weiss confirmed. It's also referred as red dust or fire dust. That's what I know about. None of those terms are particularly inventive, I know, but there is elegance in simplicity.
So there is.
I certainly can't complain, not when Tracy's bringing me something called a firestone. The scientist and the harass sat at one of the many work tables spread throughout the lab and reinforced and balanced carrying case containing several vials of powder between them.
The crystalline structure is definitely reminiscent of an elemental stone. Lucario may have been onto something.
Oak said as he used a small attachment to the scope to get a picture of the magnified view.
It's also similar to the less powerful elemental gems, though I'm far less familiar with those. It's a pity you don't have a full-size crystal with you for side-by-side comparison.
Now you said something interesting. The less powerful elemental gems. So in this world, there might be a chance to gain more powerful dust. It would be convenient, but I prefer to actually use powder dust in battle. I said somewhat apologetically. Those crystals are much more powerful, but they are all or nothing options. With the powder, I can use exactly as much as I need for a given effect, extending my staying power.
Well, I can certainly see the advantage there.
The professor stepped back from the microscope and tapped a few keys on his computer, bringing the magnified image up on the screen. Individual grains appeared as big as the crystals they had been ground from on the monitor. What I don't understand is, what role these stones dust or not play in Pokemon evolution? I said, evolution takes hundreds of generations to have significant effect. How would the presence of a single stone change that?
You know nothing, Vice.
Evolution works differently in the Pokemon world.
Ook smiled at her. See, that's the kind of question I like to hear. You are referring to actual evolution. Species slowly adapting over the millennia to better suit their environment. Pokemon evolution is actually misnomer. Properly, it would be called metamorphosis, as it involves an individual changing into a more mature form. Unfortunately, that's a battle science lost to pop culture long ago.
It was at that moment that Tracy returned to the lab, faintly luminous yellow-orange rock in hand.
Got it, Professor, he said. Does this look like what you used to, Vice?
Vice didn't answer immediately, too busy staring open-mouthed at the anchored gem in the assistant's hand.
What in the world? I can feel that from here.
Yeah, firestones are more powerful than dust. Sharing a surprised look from with his boss, Tracy shouted and offered the stone to her for closer examination. She took it with a shaking hand, studying the flame-like patterns visible in the crystalline depths. Just noticed something. If they can feel it from a range, they would be a good magnet for these things, right? They are quite rare. After a moment, Vice set the stone down, very carefully on the lab bench. And how rare are these? She asked, her voice somewhat distant.
Fairly rare.
Oak answered, nonplussed by her reaction.
But not terribly so. They are somewhat expensive and typically only sold in specialty shops, but most traders would only need to save up for a little while to afford one without breaking the bank. So what has you so out of thoughts about it?
Vice turned to look at him, her expression still shocked. My family made our fortune by our command of the dust industry. We don't have an actual monopoly, so no one can even come close to competing with our scale and our prices. She paused, glancing at the firestone and nervously wetting her lips, and struggled to find the word to express herself. This thing? Never in my life, and As the heirs of the largest dust mining and distribution company in the world, have I seen a dust crystal as powerful as this one. Not one smaller than a car, at least.
Oak and Tracy shared another look. This one longer and more measured. That is interesting, the professor mused. And dust in general is common enough for established permanent mines on Remnant.
It is, Weiss confirmed. It's used for everything. Shock dust goes into power sources for electronics and vehicles, burn dust in boilers and furnaces, gravity dust in the lifting arrays or aircraft or a city.
Apparently. Gravity dust?
Tracy interrupted. That's something we don't have.
Or do we?
Oh, scratched his chin as he considered the possibilities.
I have an hypothesis about the relative power element of stones, and another about gravity dust. Tracy, run back to circular storage again and bring a moonstone, please. And then stop by my office and get used to the use water stone of my dust.
A moonstone being gravity dust. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
His lab assistant hurried off and returned a minute later, stones in hand. Right, first thing first. Oh, yeah, Tracy, please go back and bring the other stones as well. All of them.
Oak sat turning to Weiss and just staring at the dark grey crystal Tracy was holding. The faintly luminous white flecks suspended in it made it look like a broken off chunk of the night sky.
Is this gravity dust, Miss Schnee?
Yes, she answered without hesitation, and it's just as ridiculously powerful as the firestone. I can tell from that from here. I could probably implode a building with that kind of power if I wasn't careful.
If you know how to use it.
At least these ones don't explode like the dust. So it seems dust in the Pokemon world is more stable and more powerful in crystallized form, but less, but more scarce at the same time.
Oh, one mystery solved, the professor said with a faint smile. Now, please examine the expanded Thunderstone. It was used by a trainer of my acquaintance, the Eevee and the Vaporeon, a few weeks ago. Some trainers keep expanded stones as mementos, but this trainer chose not to, for whatever reason. I've been using it as a paperweight.
Well, I think that, yeah, that's a good chance to look out if it still has dust in it. Or power in it. Weiss accepted the blue chunk of crystal from Tracy, and cast a critical eye over it. It seemed somewhat dull and lifeless compared to the other two she had seen, both of which they had their own faint internal glows. This one had multiple shades of blue woven together in a gently curving pattern that resembled flowing water, complete with flecks that looked like bubbles, but the effect couldn't really be seen without holding it up to light. After a moment's study, Weiss nodded. This is more like what I'm used to. It's just dust, very high quality dust, but nothing you couldn't find on Remnant. But you say it's already been used up? Professor Oak nodded, a satisfied smile gracing his face. Oh, that's a good point. Now they have replenishment because used up evolution stones worth nothing. In this world, just mementos, basically. Professor Oak nodded, satisfied grin, not grin, satisfied smile, gracing his face. That lends support to my other hypothesis. I believe it would take a geologist and access to a home world's records to verify though. What's your idea, Professor? Tracy asked. Miss Schnee, you said there are dust crystals in Remnant that contain similar amounts of power as the elemental stone, but they are rather massive, correct? Yes, Weiss began, mind racing. I think I see where you're going with this. If the dust back home is coal. She turned to the stones on the table, setting the water stone down next to them. Then these are diamonds.
Precisely. For whatever reason, the geological and elemental forces to go into the creation of dust and stones appear to be present on both worlds, but operating on different parameters. On Remnant, the substance is diffuse and widespread, while here it's further compressed and compacted into denser form. So what does it imply? Tracy asked, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. No idea. The professor answered. Chief was smiling in place. Seeing Vice's astonished look, he winked at her conspirationally. No. It's not conspirationally. Conspiration. Wow, that's a hard word to say, right? Conspirationally. Is it how you write it at all? I have to check. I think this one is a little bit too... Yeah, this is how you write it.
Conspiratorially.
And that was loud. I'm sorry about that. This is another word that I have never heard in my life said it out loud. Socialist and biologist, remember, my expertise in other fields is purely based on interest, rather than training. I don't know enough to the formation of evolution stones to make further inferences. Yeah, conspiratorially. I'm not gonna try it. You heard it first. Hopefully they are not gonna say it another time. I know what it means. That's what it means. Luckily, that's another word you don't use often. He held up the collection of stones on the bench, and seeing Vice flinch at the cavalier way he was handling the sources of such power, he couldn't help but juggle them a few seconds before pocketing them, complete with the mischievous smile Guy had intended from him. After things have settled a bit, I'll bring it up with some colleagues in the appropriate fields, and see if they can shed a little light on the subject. For tonight, though, it's starting to get late. I'll go put this away, and we can get you and the rest of our guests situated in the guest rooms. And as we know, as I said in the beginning, it's fine to have the sources of such power without any problems. As they say, cavalier way. Because they are more stable, a lot more stable. Now that's what I heard fairly often. You heard it fairly often? I mean, I know conspiracy. But not... I never heard with the thoroughly. Yeah, it's more of an adjective describing how he was speaking. Now, it was the wink. It's typically that, yes, you know what you mean. That's typical cheeky wink at someone that, you know what I'm talking about, right? I'm surprised you have enough space for us all, to be honest, Wise said as she rose and started packing her vials of dust away, leaving behind the small samples she had set aside. I wouldn't have accepted a research laboratory to have so many guest rooms. Ah, that's the silver lining to getting roped into hosting seminars and conferences all the time, Tracy supplied, especially in a small town that's kind of lacking in hotels.
Yeah, because the action of conspiring is conspiracy. Oh, the action? How is how do you now you pick my mind. Conspiracy, I guess, is the act. Conspiring? No, the action is conspiring. That's it. Yeah, my mind is not on peak performance right now. After 8 hours of work, where we are literally five of us are there, and we are doing the work of 12 because most of them are ill or out on vacation. So yeah, the night was a little bit rough for me, but now my head is starting to get better, at least. It still hurts a little bit, but it's much better than it was at night. We don't need to leave the town for the Indigo Plateau until the lunch tomorrow, Professor said as he descended the stairs out of the lab. But I would like to get an early start on the way. Well, I've got you and your friends here, where I've got an array of scanners and recording equipment. I was hoping one of you might be willing to put on a little exhibition match in the morning. What do you have in mind? Well, there is some other footage. How do I say footage? There's some amount of footage of Miss Xiaolong's battles of the tournaments available online, as well as some truly terrible shaky cam shots of the four of you taken during the defense against the Grim. But there is some very few quality recordings to be found. I would like to rectify this, for a number of reasons, not least of which being to silence any doubters who try to argue that your qualifications are being exaggerated when they learn that we are taking technical and strategic advice from teenage girls. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Give validation behind those words. Vice considered that as they reached the bottom of the stairs. Sensible. I suppose there is no harm in it. Any preferences about which of us to fight and who will be our opponent? Tracy spoke up with her early before O could answer. Actually, Professor, if you didn't have anyone else in mind, could I volunteer? Saito doesn't get as many chances to battle as he would like, and I think he was interested in meeting humans who could challenge him. Even as the scientist agreed with a shrug, Vice paused. Did you say sight-er? that's gonna be a good matchup for Mr. Sight-er. Or Mrs. Sight-er. Yeah, he's my strongest battler, Tracy said, reaching for a Pokeball. Why? We know why. He tossed out the ball to the floor in the middle of the hallway, and Vice behind 5 feet of a living weapon, a battle scarred and venerable mantis, with curving blades for arms and an aggressive gleam in his eye. The bug type gave Aurelis an evaluating look, lingering on the sword on her lip, before giving her a respectful nod. Oh yeah, Pokemon can feel when they are outpowered, or at least on the same level. I stared back for a moment, before a small smile crossed her lips. You know what? I think we can oblige you. They reached the lounge, where the rest of her team and other guests had found means of entertaining themselves. Link was with Riley at the side table, an atlas open in front of them. The fellows were studying a map of Johto region, and with the other adepts' help, was reconstructing the path they had taken since they had arrived to the wormhole. The sisters Gary and Casey, along with the gathered Pokemon, were all sitting in front of the TV as the opening credits to some old-looking cartoon starring a Hypno-chan played. Don't get it though, Yang was saying. If it defeats every opponent in one punch, wouldn't that be a pretty boring show? They are watching One Punch Man. Oh, Hitmonchan. One punch! No, see, that's the point, Case explained. One Punch Mon. Okay, that's the pun. There it is. One Punch Mon. It's about how the hero is bored because he can't get a decent fight and she. Oh wait, it's Casey. Did I use Tracy's voice for Casey the whole time? Their names are really close together. She cut herself off as she saw White and the scientist in the doorway, and others looked up as they noticed her silence. Oh hey, Ice Cream! Don't stand at rocks! Yang called with a little wave. For now at least, Vice said, ignoring the taunt outwardly, while adding to the list mentally. Professor Oak was just suggesting that one of us demonstrate our skills tomorrow morning before we go to meet the Elif for, and I was thinking that... Oh, me, I volunteer! Ruby was on her feet in an instant, waving her hand over her head like she was in school. You got to fight those rocket guys, and she had to spar with Blake the day before, and you fought those other rocket guys the other day before that. I haven't had a decent fight since Grandeur. Vice gave her a partner-sized smile. I was actually hoping you would say that, Ruby. Meet your opponent. Saito stepped into the room, wings buzzing faintly, as he assessed the redhead he was set to battle in the morning. She didn't look particularly threatening, but the battle-scarred Mantis Pokemon didn't survive to such an advanced stage by dismissing opponents based on looks, especially not when he had heard some of her accomplishments. Ruby stared back with stars in her eyes. Eee! You got skites! Skites? Sights! Skites! Why did they say skites? You got sights for arms! That's so cool! I can't get that high, obviously. She reached behind her back and pronounced her weapon, expanding it to combat mode with a flourish, and making a hole in the room, in the floor, right? And a glance over her shoulder to make sure she wouldn't hit any furniture or people. I fight with the side too. Looking at the gleaming polearm in the girl's arms, Saito patted himself on the back for not underestimating her. Yup. Next morning, found Professor Oak and his guests gathered in the grassy field behind the lab. Ruby and Saito both eager to get stabbed. I read to sleep. I read stabbed. They are eager to get stabbed. No, they are gonna get caught because you don't stab with a sight. You can, but still you don't. Ruby and Saito are both eager to get started, but waiting for Oak and Tracy to finish preparing whatever recording equipment they were using. There was an array of specialized cameras mounted in shattered alcoves in the back wall of the building for exactly these circumstances, but they hadn't been used for weeks, so a few checks needed to be done. So Casey told us about how these battles actually work, but how it's going to go this time? Ruby asked Gary, who had volunteered to serve as a referee in the off chance he was needed. I remember Team Ruby being in a cross-fighting game with another fighting game such as Base Blue. Isn't it just Base Blue that they were? Ruby actually did nerd out with some other weapons. It's not just in the Blast Blue, she did it in the actual Ruby series as well. She was like, oh, can I see your weapon? Can I see your weapon? Oh, you have a fire sword. Oh, that's so cool. That's literally Ruby. Can I touch it? Can I touch it? But yeah, I don't have Blast Blue. Because I'm bad at fighting games. I mean, I only play Tekken, but I'm not good at fairly basic. We don't have the borders for proper pitch painting, so there is no ring outs, but don't go too far. There is really no win condition, since this is just a friendly spar instead of a sure battle. Fight till you decide you are just done, or one of you is obviously the winner. That's fine. You also kind of feel sleepy right now. Don't worry, we still have some left. Yeah, I know Blaze Blue. It's I mean, it's so strange that Blaze Blue is the actual cross-fighting game. While it has its own characters as well. I think it's Blaze Blue Tag or something like that. I've seen some YouTubers play it. It's a fun game. But it's something that I would rather watch them play. Because I know I would just rage. And feel miserable. Or failing over and over again. Gotcha, don't wanna be too worn out when we go visit those elite guys later after all. Tracy wandered over. Checks complete and the equipment functional. So, here's a thought. Should I participate? Because RWBY doesn't have someone to give for advice or orders, or come up with plans on her behalf. Oh, good point, Gary said. Since there's nothing riding on this, I guess let Saito do his own thing. Gramps and the Leech can figure out the official rules if it becomes important later. He took a Pokeball from his belt and sent out the Psychic type again. And Alakazam will be using light screen and reflect in front of the spectators and the lab just in case. Good idea. Good idea, especially knowing how seriously dangerous those sniper bullets are. Aren't they a little bit more dangerous than you need to be? Round 1? Yes, round 1 fighter. There you go. RWBY vs Saito. Yay God, save behind his Pokemon layer barriers. Ready? Fight! It's just a spar. Saito's wing burst, and the massive mantis rose a few feet off the ground before charging at high speed. RWBY raised Crescent Rose, blood as the rose petals surrounded her, and dove in to meet him halfway. There was a ringing crash as Titanium Steel met Organometallic Kitten, wow that's a hard one, and the pair dove past each other, essentially reversing their starting positions. RWBY grew indistinct again as she circled the battlefield, a broad loop that would have brought her behind Saito if he stayed still, though of course he didn't. He circled in the same direction, keeping at range as he charged a faint glow into his blade arms, and swung them in wide arcs. The glow leaping from his limbs and illuminating the ripple in the air as they crossed the distance. Then, with starting suddenly, Saito reversed the course and charged in the wake of his air slash. The Huntress easily waved through the faintly visible projectiles, the edges tugging her at her cloak, and Crescent Rose spun in her hands like a baton as she defended Saito's savage follow-up flurry of strikes. But the rang again as Saito braced his blades against the weapon's haft, and his greater raw strength slowly began to give him the advantage. But RWBY only smiled and stroked her baby's trigger. The massive caliber bullet shot in the sky, not even close to hitting anything, though it did scare the bejeebers out of the few passing Pidgey.
but the recoil jerks Saito badly off balance. The movie is a crescent shape tonight, like Saito's arms. Yup. Right there, where you are right now. I mean, RWBY's grin was replaced by astonishment as the runner bug rolled with it, using his orderly spin and kicking out with a talon foot, buckling RWBY's knee. She was forced to dissolve into petals and open the distance, losing the opportunity to take advantage of Saito's stumble. Staring down her foe from across the battlefield, RWBY worked her weapons board and prepared the next move. Phenomenal! Professor Oak breathed as he watched the battle. I'm not sure what impresses me more, her skill at arms, or whatever she is doing with those flower petals. Her semblance, Rice supplied, saying that Yang was too busy cheering RWBY on to explain her sister's power. An aura-based ability unique to RWBY, but what is Saito doing? Blake narrowed her eyes at the mantis, seeing Vice was what Vice was getting at. He looks blurry almost. He's using agility to boost her speed, Casey said, even as she desperately tried not to blink. You will see the difference when he moves, or not, if he's fast enough. Vice frowned. What do you mean boost his speed? It was Riley who answered. Some Pokemon moves can focus the user's aura to strengthen themselves in a variety of ways, or to weaken their opponents. Fighters commonly learn several moves like that, and agility is one of the less flashy ones. RWBY is in for, oh, there we go. RWBY's teammates signaled the resuming clash in favor of staring at the Aura Guardian. You can do that? Oh, that's gonna be fun if they learn it. RWBY squeaked in dismay as Saito resumed his attack, and she found she was having trouble keeping up. She was forced firmly in the defensive, claws hanging from her weapon as she parried desperately. Being outclassed for speed was a rare situation for the young huntress, and one she never enjoyed. The Pokemon was bringing the fight in close, perfect range for his blades. But awkward for RWBY's polearm. Every time she tried to disengage and get some distance, Saito was already there, blocking her path. He hadn't been moving this fast before, and she was pretty sure he hadn't been holding back that much. Whatever this trick was, she had need to use one of her own to counter it. Crescent Rose spun in tight circle, deflecting another slash of Saito's claws by the skin of her teeth. As the side's head pointed at the ground, the integrated rifle rolled again, and RWBY shot into the air, propelled by recoil. She only went a few feet up, but the unexpected angle of escape caught Saito off guard, and another shot launched her away. Before her feet even touched the ground again, RWBY had already drawn a new magazine from her armor pouch, and swapped it from the one she had been using. Unlike the first mag, this one was stamped with a simple mark, 4 arrows pointed inward towards the dot. The far greater recoil generated by gravity rounds would be useful for combat at these speeds. Combo breaker! The tiny grin and squeeze of the trigger, RWBY got back to work. Okay, Gary said, watching the match intently. So she can use recoil to boost her speed even further, but it's straight line only. But her long range would be with the sight means it's not a big disadvantage as it normally would be. And it may be straight line only, but rapid shots let her change direction in an instant, like she is rebounding off walls that aren't there. Thinking about that, actually, RWBY actually have to defend herself and her internals with her aura. She is literally taking damage by moving, isn't she? I mean, astronauts are basically trained for this for years, that they
withstand constant gravitational pull. So what happens with this that RWBY is doing? Oh, I'm moving this line, and then this line, and there, and there, and there, and there. That's a mess of a human right there. The human body wouldn't be able to withstand that without, obviously, aura. So I guess if RWBY is running out of aura, she's not gonna be able to run away like that anymore without the reboundation. That's not even a word, I know. Without hurting herself, that's what I wanted to say. She was scratching like mad, even as she spoke. Faint minimalistic doodles that he would finish later, filling several pages already. Actually, why is she getting boosted so far? The first few swords didn't give her that big a push. Yang heard the question, and looked up from the discussion with Riley. Oh, that's cause she set her ammo out of gravity rounds. Way more recoil, but for most people that's a bad thing, but with the way RWBY fights... Oh, it just makes her even faster, Tracy concluded. Now she's matching Saito's speed again. If I was participating, I know what I would order Saito to do now, and I bet he will... Yeah, that. Saito was going on noticeably blurry again, but it seems to just keep going. For a few seconds, it looks like a static image on an old TV with a bad tuning, and eventually seemed to separate into a pair of Saitos, indistinguishable from each other. And then... Double team. Is it double team? And then process repeated, and there were 4 Saitos, and an 8. Yeah, that's something you use in a Nuzlocke. It's not a fair... it's not really a fair tactic, but you can use it. It works. Saito! They shrieked. Their voices doubling oddly, and they charged. Double team. Yep. Tracy explained, seeing the shock on Hannes' faces, a method of leaving after images that obscure the real fighter. And an expert at that move, like Saito is, can even have them move independently, like there's an actual multiple Pokemon there. And if you look up, he pointed skyward, you can see Saito's specialty, Sword Stance, in action. Well, double team, Sword Stance, Air Slash, and Acrobat. Well, that's definitely Saito made to just buff himself up to the maximum and then take rush on every team. Hovering high over the battlefield, Saito went through the motions of the strength-boosting Sword Dance for the 3rd time in a row. Oh god. He had used the distraction of his double-team doppelgangers, and the speed granted by the agility dart up unnoticed, and he was just about ready to return to the battle pathway. He looked down, watching RWBY fend off the swarm of duplicates, her dismay increasing as she continued to fail to identify the real foe, parrying illusionary attacks that she couldn't afford to ignore. Confident he wouldn't be heard from 50 feet up, the mantis smiled down at her indulgently. So kid, what do you know what they say about youth and enthusiasm? Dismay had been apparently given her way to frustration in the red-haired girl, and she finally gave a voice to Butler's shout of anger. A massive plume of rose petals rubbing into the air, getting clear of the pack and aiming Crescent back down on them. Her hands blurred, and before the momentum could give way to gravity, she fired a blazing fast volley of shots that struck each Saito on the field perfectly. Just as it was dawning on RWBY that none of the targets had proved to be real, she realized that she could hear the buzzing of insectile wings. above her. Scyther wasn't a cruel Pokemon, but he was certainly a predator at heart. And he would treasure the shocked look on Ruby's face as she turned in midair to see him until he shuffled off to the mortar coil. Scyther's X-Scissor, that's the 5th move, so I guess we are not following the rule of 4 moves only. That's the 5th move Scyther knows. I mean, that makes sense. It's more fitting to the actual word of Pokemon that you can, anything you can learn, you can keep it. Throw Ruby into the aggressive field at speed, tearing the scythe from her hands and leaving her pinned beneath the man-sized bug. Winded by her return to the ground, disarmed and with a pair of curved blades crossing just over her neck, Ruby, after a few seconds of wheezing as she regained her breath, smiled up at him. I guess that's one's yours then. Great match. Even as the spectators started to clap and cheer, Cassandros finally reached the ground, the heavy blade digging into the turf and leaving the haft raised like a flagpole. And on the outskirts of sleepy little pallet town, Tyrion Kalos smiled. Okay, the next chapter is gonna be fun. It's not like this wasn't fun. Just to show that it was fun. There is the like. Actually, the Pokemon that will be more interesting that way, that they got to keep every move they learn. You know, the TM and the HM moves. I mean, that's mostly because the 4 move rule is there because of the tournaments. And obviously, the specifications that the cartridges couldn't handle having like thousands of Pokemon in your team, having like 16 moves, all of them differently. That's a lot of memory that you have to store. Nowadays you would be able to do that, but this has been established that yeah, 4 moves, fine, in the games. I mean, it wouldn't be fun to scroll through all the moves that you learn. You know how many moves a Pokemon can learn? There's actually a lot of Pokemon that can learn like 50 plus moves. With TMs, HMs, everything. Do you want to scroll through everything? Because I would be the one that would teach everything to a Pokemon if there. High level Pokemon would make a more of a difference if they keep all their moves. They still do one move at a time, per turn in most cases. Yeah. But yeah, in a real world scenario like this, it makes a lot more sense to have all of them, all of the moves that you learn. It's not like, oh no, I cannot learn to speak English. I have to, oh no, maybe I will forget how to ride a bike. How about that? Just like that, I forgot how to ride a bike and know English. As you capture the moves and each move has its own PP, then each Pokemon would enter much longer before needing to rest. Yeah, that's why it's there implemented, because if you could have all the moves in the game, then it doesn't really matter if you just learned the strongest moves as well. Because they have low PP for a reason. If you can only have 4 moves, it makes sense to, oh wait, which 4 moves do I want? But yeah, these are just for gameplay mechanic. And obviously the problems with the cartridges cannot hold too much memory as well. You know, this was made as a Game Boy game as the first. Not all the moves, just the ones they acquire and level up and you teach them. That's a lot. That's still a lot. That's still a lot. I still see why they did it in the games. But if it was D&D session or something, I would definitely make it so that everything you learn is yours. I was surprised how little memory the first game was. I know how little the I mean, but every time you add a new Pokemon to your bank, it's still an extra memory that you have to. Yeah, it was the range of megabytes, and but the first game's cartridges couldn't handle too much at all. I think it was the first Pokemon game was almost filling the full cartridge. That's why Missing No exists, because you can override things. Because there are some sectors that thing can't read. But yeah, it was a fun chapter, and it will be even more fun. I don't even know if you noticed that before starting the reading, and while I was making the coffee, I need someone at the screen as well. You see that? Right there? Behind RWBY? I knew he was coming! The moment he was sent into the world of Pokemon. I didn't know it was this fast. He would arrive here so fast. But I mean, why wouldn't he know where they are? I mean, there are humans who could battle Pokemon, right? It's not like the news wouldn't spread far and wide. And yeah, good thing I got my code and now my DS is in working condition. Yang doesn't have a Pikachu, right? I made this before even starting to read. I didn't know what to give them. I just randomly gave them something. I will need to fix them. I will need to fix this at one point. Now that we know that who everyone has, I will need to fix this. I will need to add Blake, obviously, and Weiss with rats. But I'm not gonna do that right now. But yeah, sad part about this thing, I wanted to play Pokemon, but I sadly need to clean up the cards in the end. The reading part. I need to take this apart and clean it up because it hasn't been used in a while. Because it can't read any cartridges right now. Yeah, I didn't even guess what they would get. I just got random Pokemon, literally. I was pretty sure RWBY wouldn't get an Emolga. That's for sure. And I was pretty sure that Yang would get something fiery. Not a Pikachu. I I think I even said she would get a Blaziken, but that would be too strong. And she got a Torchic. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said like that. And I was joking that Blake would get Puccina. Or a Mightyena. Because it's a dog. Maybe I can. Yeah. There's a lot to make this, but yeah, I didn't have time. You know, I'm still working on the other movie that I want to continue right now because I'm tired as hell. And I still have to make a new new overlay for season 9, right? You gotta catch them all! Beyblade video! Yeah, that's gonna happen as well, don't worry. Beyblade is gonna come as well, but yeah, you don't worry. Beyblade video. But not now. I'm super tired. I'm gonna go to sleep. And when I wake up, I'm gonna record a Beyblade video for you. I'm gonna upload it as fast as possible. But yeah, I will be sleeping for at least 6 hours. Probably more. Yeah, tomorrow hopefully I will. Yeah, tomorrow I will come back with this at the same time. Just let's be sure that I'm gonna say this before I'm adding the thing. Tomorrow at the same time I will continue this, and hopefully I will be more awake because I'm not going to work tonight. But yeah, thank you for being here, and don't worry, is here again. I'm gonna record a video for not just you, but everyone who watches Beyblade when I wake up. But thank you for being here, and see you next time. Bye bye.